Hello and welcome back to another Takeda episode of the Eternal Law. On the last Takeda episode, we saw the Takeda forces attempt to retake Etsu from the Honma, who had occupied it very dishonorably last time. The Honma tried to sally out when the siege was laid, however their forces were not strong enough to break through the Takeda lines and were eventually defeated when masses of Takeda cavalry just ruined their formation from behind. Then, far over in the west, Shingen marched out against the Amako on the request of the Ikko, joining them in a war from which he hopes to gain sneaky provinces near the capital. He tries to lead the assault on Yamato, being one such province. Then Nobukado attempted to launch a naval invasion on the Honma base at Sado, however it was too heavily defended and he had to turn back. Now let's continue. Our camp straddles a firmly trod road, busy with travellers of all types. This road, my friends, connects our destination Yamato to the capital, Kyoto, in just about as straight a way as is possible. Control of this fiefdom will make this road ours. Then it shall be on our own volition that we may march up this causeway right to the gates of the Shogunal palace and receive his blessing that it is we, not the butcherous Amako or rebellious Ikko, that control their most vulnerable approach. A nervous blessing for them indeed. So yes, we're back with the Takeda, for whom all of their concerns are mainly outside of their provinces. We have Shingen here, far away in Yamato, trying to attack the Amako province, and back up near Sado Island we have Nobukado and his fleet moving back to pick up Nobushige and his army in order to have numerical equality with the Honma when the naval invasion begins for real. So as we end this turn, the Amako decide that it's time for them to set up naval blockades on our trade ports, reducing our income for the term. Very annoying, especially considering that both of their fleets had almost no ships. Then we see their main force at Yamato does battle with the Ikko forces, a battle Shingen wasn't involved in. So hopefully this means that those forces are now weakened, because it looks like they lost the battle. So this means it's a perfect time for me to advance on Yamato, so a nice turn of luck. Looks like the Honma there sending a fairly large fleet to blockade one of my ports, but it was a port that has my main fleet in it, so perhaps they'll be able to break out. So let's pop down and have a look at the situation. We've also mastered calligraphy. This improves our diplomatic relations with all the other clans, so hopefully we'll get some favourable diplomacy in the near future. We get a mission to capture a province called Ugo, which is all the way up here, held by the Hatakeyama at this time, so I don't think I'm really going to be able to fulfill that mission. That's just too much of a stretch. Anyway, back to the situation in Yamato. Shingen moves forward. We can see there's still a fairly large Amako army inside the castle, but I begin besieging it. It looks like the Amako army has taken losses. A lot of their units are not at full strength, and in fact Shingen's army has a slight force advantage. Not really enough to justify doing a siege assault right away, so I'm going to maintain the siege and hope that the Ikko send some of their vast forces here to support my attack. That'll make things much easier. So now let's switch to the situation with the naval invasion. I have to move all the ships back before any Honma navies appear and sink them. They're in a slightly dangerous position at the moment. So I'm going to be combining them with more ships back here, and I'm combining them with Yoshinobu's army. I decided to send the less experienced Yoshinobu rather than Nobushige, simply because the troops he commands are of higher quality. You can see Nobushige's army. Although it's experienced, it's mainly a mishmash of Ashigaru troops. I thought we're not going to be well suited to a morale-demanding situation like a naval invasion. So I'm leaving him behind as backup and to just guard the coastline. So here's the situation with that Honma navy I mentioned. They've blockaded this port, however I have this massive fleet of Sengoku bunes and medium bunes. They're being led at the moment by General Yamadera, who has his army aboard these ships. So they're going to sail out of the port. They managed to capture one of the enemy firebomb Koboyas. We lost one of our Sengoku bune in the process, so not a completely even split, but at least we destroyed the rest of the enemy fleet. And the blockade is lifted, which means any trade income we would have been losing due to that blockade has now been restored. So we're now in the winter. The turn has passed, and let's see what's going on back down in Yamato. The Ikko sent only a meager 3 units to help with my siege on Yamato, so I'm not sure what they're thinking here. They obviously felt that the 3 armies they had close by were better off doing something else. But I decided it was time for me to assault this castle, because if I don't, my army is going to suffer winter attrition and take heavy losses, and that's going to make things more difficult, especially because another Amako army might arrive in support at any moment. So I'm going to attack. The good news is that an Ikko Ikki ninja has opened the gates of the castle before we assault, so we can thank the Ikko Ikki for that. Let's head into the battle. So here are the Amako forces preparing to defend their stronghold. A lot of their men are warrior monks, which is Yamato's specialty unit. They also have a lot of these Naginata Ashigaru. Mostly it's spear units, which unfortunately negates our cavalry advantage we have over them. But still, it is a siege battle, so our cavalry advantage wouldn't have been too important anyway. You can see they've decided to guard one wing and then not guard one of the other wings whilst keeping a reserve in the centre. An interesting strategy. The Takeda army is coming at them from all sides. All of the samurai in the army are coming from the north side, so our heavy attack element is going up against the steepest bits of the wall. You can see they have bow samurai with them as well, who are going to be quite important in this battle. If we zoom over here to the west side of the castle, there's an Ashigaru element coming up. There's a whole bunch of Ashigaru spearmen, some of them long, some of them regular Yari Ashigaru, and they're coming up to assault the west face of the wall where most of the enemy forces are. On the southwest side, all the cavalry are just kind of waiting. The gates are open, so the cavalry can rush inside the castle, but we need to wait for the right moment to do so. Here in the southeast, there's a mixed attack group gathering up. It's a combined group using spearmen and bowmen. And they're actually, well, they were going to attack the southeast face, but in the beginning of the battle I changed my strategy to have them move towards the northeast side and attack there, because that was where the Ikko Ikki reinforcements looked like they were going to attack, so I wanted to support them with my own troops. So here we are a little later. We've linked up with the Ikko Ikki. So the Ikko Ikki are going to be controlled by the AI in this battle, so I can't have any influence over what they're going to do, but I can try and keep an eye on them and make sure my attack is happening vaguely in tandem with theirs to maximize the results. You can see I'm really prepared for the attack. We've got all my forces in formation ready to go. The enemy have fallen back to defend the center, which means there's no hope of me capturing the Tenshu and ending the battle early, so there's going to have to be a battle of attrition. And now we're about to reach a moment where things are going to be slightly strange, because in this battle I encountered the dreaded battle replay corruption problem with Shogun Total War 2. Basically what this means is the footage you're going to see from about here on in is different to how it actually went in the battle, and I'm going to try and explain how, and you'll see once we get back to the strategy map how big those differences are. So I started using my bow samurai to attack some bow Ashigaru who are on the wall, but then after 2 volleys I ordered them to shift their targets to a unit of marathon monks which were standing here. However, you can see here on the replay they're not here, and instead it's katana ninjas. It seems in the replay the Amako formation was different to how it was in the real battle, and this causes lots of problems. The first problem is that my bow samurai apparently now looking for those marathon monks, because the replay has saved that they went to attack them, start walking towards the castle. The marathon monks must be on the other side of the castle or something, so it's forcing them to move forwards, whereas in the actual battle they just stood where they were, and out of our range of the enemy most importantly. So they're just walking into our fire and being killed. Of course this means that this battle is going to go less in our favour, because we're losing units, and particularly we're losing a unit, those bow samurai, which did a massive amount of damage in this battle in the real version. But anyway, we're pressing ahead. So the Takeda forces on the southwest side are storming in through the open gate. The enemy don't seem to be reacting very well to it, and they're allowing me to form up inside as I wish really. There are a few archers up on the central layer, which you can see now firing down towards our troops, which is bad news. But I believe I noticed this very quickly and started adjusting the formation to get out of that archer range early on. Now let's head to the other side. You can see the Ikko Ikki have began their assault without me because I was too slow. They just sprinted in using their ninjas to scale the walls, whilst my Ashigaru still aren't in position. They wait not for their captain's orders, nor the word of their allied forces. They charge up walls with the same energy that they charge on the flat. They scream for their cause and throw insults at our enemy that could just as well be directed at us. This is the Ikki way of war that has won them so much of our land. And here we are, men of the people, fighting not for the people, but for our samurai lords. It is hard to know which of us is right, but it is easy to see that soon it shall be our ranks receiving that Ikki fury. So the Ikko Ikki are just diving into the attack before these Ashigaru are ready, so they're going to take heavy losses while I try and get up to support them. Now let's have a look at this unit of bow samurai. It appears to have decided that it's now in range and is firing at enemy units in the castle. You can see that these men are being annihilated by the bow ashigaru right up there, just firing down out of the windows. So that bow samurai unit is going to be destroyed, which will tilt the results of this battle because they did get a lot of kills in the real version. You can see my bow ashigaru are now in a position to start bombarding the guys in the center. So this is the main way I can support the Ikko attack at this time, by simply taking out some of the troops inside, using these barrages of arrows. Here I'm fighting some Katano Dojo samurai, killed a few of them before they engaged. Right back over on the other side, I'm trying to make my way into the castle on the southwest front. You can see that the enemy are defending the gatehouse, well, with almost all of the troops in the area. I kind of almost made my way up there. Some of my troops made it to the top, some of them are being bogged down by enemy cavalry. Have all those troops in there are spearmen, so those enemy cavalry are in trouble. So all that's going to happen there is our troops are going to try and force their way in. We hear reports that we're losing at least one of our units to routing. I'm not sure where that is, and I'm not sure whether that really happened or not. I can't quite remember. But here we can see the Ikko forces are really assaulting the inner sanctum of the castle in force. Here are those ninjas who had rushed ahead, currently engaged with some enemy Naginata Ashigaru. So these ninjas will have skill advantages on these enemy troops. They'll be able to kill them, well, hopefully at least one per man. However, they are exhausted from storming the castle like they did, and they are severely outnumbered, and they're actually surrounded by the looks of things as well, so they are in a little bit of trouble. You can see just how many Amako troops there are in here. Those ninjas are in big trouble. Over here, the Ikko are opening up another fight using Naginata Ashigaru, who themselves are not the best of warriors. They're more for holding a line than for assaulting a castle. You can see they're engaging the enemy's no Daichi warrior monks. These men, their main advantage lies in their heavy charge, but still they're formidable warriors even in this open melee environment they seem to have got going here. So these Ikko troops are in big trouble. It looks like the Amako are swamping them with Ashigaru and warrior monks. So what are the Takeda troops doing in the meantime? Well, they're actually trying to get through this little gatehouse, because the Takeda troops here are mainly long Yari Ashigaru, which are really ill suited to going over the walls. So I'm trying to push them up just like I am trying to push them up over here. It's pretty much the same deal, just using long Yari Ashigaru to push the front and try and get inside. However, actually things went a little bit differently, because at this stage I was starting to move troops up and over the walls. You can see that one of the units who's supposed to go over does go over, and they're going towards the inner sanctum. Here there's an enemy unit which wasn't even present in the battle. This unit, I think it's enemy, some warrior monks here, who are fighting with Shingen. Now in reality Shingen was just standing here inspiring the troops. He was not in combat at all. So this unit being here is a fortunate glitch of the battle replay. You can see I've also lost I had 2 regiments of mounted gunners there, and there's only about 10 or so of them left. So it seems that they were also killed by this mysterious unit of spearmen, who are just killing my men, and of course they're not fighting back because they're not programmed to, because I never told them to fight anyone at this stage in a real battle. So they're just getting taken down. You can see the spear wall here is jabbing its way up that ramp and is now beginning to capture the gatehouse. Working very effectively at just pushing those enemy ranks back. We're in such a good formation here, the enemy can't get through. We have a few Takeda units here. This is the heavy element which came from the north side. Some of it isn't engaging because they were actually in the real battle supposed to be fighting with defenders on the wall, which were not present in this battle replay, which means the units just stand still because the game doesn't really know what to do with them since they can't fulfill their orders. Over here we have some Naginata samurai trying to break their way in to the inner sanctum. There's a few defenders. I believe that it was part of the real battle replay. So now we're back over on the east side. You can see the bow Ashigaru have spread out and are just peppering everyone inside with arrows. The enemy Amako forces there are so heavily clustered together that it's very easy for these huge volleys of arrows to do massive damage. You can see they're clustered in the gatehouse. I believe they're fighting with some long Yari Ashigaru who are out of formation. Now, I'm not sure this actually happened in the battle replay. I believe they stayed in formation on the bottom, so it's likely that a unit they decided to target was in a different location. That's forced them to sprint forwards and break their formation and is just trying to push through the enemy. But just look at this huge volleys of arrows coming in and just slaying these really bunched together enemy troops. They're in trouble. So we're getting some nice kills through our archers. You can see the enemy has fallen back to defend the Tenshu now that they see we're about to pretty much break into the inner sanctum on all fronts. And here's an example of said break-in. This is on the west side, sorry. Our forces are coming up. Now the way this plays out is quite different from the real battle as well. In the real battle I dismounted all of my mounted gunners who were actually alive rather than dead in this battle replay. And I positioned them at the top of the ramp and then used them to fire volleys of gunfire at the troops defending the Tenshu, forcing them to run forwards. Then I used all of my samurai standing behind the gunners to meet the enemy charge. Meanwhile, I had my cavalry flanking around to the south to actually go around and attack the Amako defending the other gatehouse from the back. I believe I used all of my fire and katana cavalry to do that. In this version, the fire cavalry just kind of stand in the gatehouse and then got caught up fighting with these warrior monks who I guess must have not been there. I think in fact they're fighting the marathon monks who I actually eliminated right at the beginning of the battle in the real version, so that's probably why they've got bogged down in this version. You can see over here loads of the Takeda troops actually were killed. Now the battle progresses for about a minute as this melee just goes on, and then it's a close defeat. So the game registers as a defeat because at this point in the battle replay I won the battle, but since what was happening in the battle replay never progressed to me winning, it just assumes I was defeated because it was an offensive battle. So what we're going to do now is we're going to head back to the strategy map to see if the game's claims that Shingen died and we lost the battle are really true. Hear this. I, Lord Takeda Shingen, write to all readers to allay the deviant word of my death. In this age of deception we must be ever vigilant against poisonous misinformation such as this. I declare that both I and the riders of House Baba live, and that the bandits of the Amako are gone from the hallowed plains of Yamato. To those that believe this edict itself to be a ruse, come and see for yourself how the Takeda banner flies at every post station in the province, and the name of Takeda Shingen pours from the mouth of every well-wisher. So the battle report reveals that Shingen and those bow samurai and all of the mounted gunners and a great deal of his troops are still alive, despite the fact that we saw them being cut down in the battle footage. The Ikko forces were completely destroyed, and I believe this was something similar to both the real battle and the corrupted replay. So the Ikko are gone, sacrificing themselves for the good of the Takeda. Very good of them, as our ally in Yamato province is now ours. A very nice province with a direct road right to Kyoto, so it's a very important capture for us. It also has the ability to recruit various types of warrior monks, which should be useful in the coming battles. So now we're going to deal with the fact that the Amako are blockading all of our ports. Basically, I simply built more ships in the ports whilst the blockade was still going, and then had those ships go and break the blockade. You can see there's another Amako ship here, which we're going to quickly disperse using the main fleet here, led by our General Yamadera. And he has a massive advantage on this enemy. Although we actually lost one of our ships there. I believe that ship was already undercrewed though. Now the enemy ship actually retreats. We didn't force them to surrender or destroy them. However, they very unfortunately happened to retreat right into the docks where the other fleet was stationed. That was poor judgment from them, and they were destroyed as a result. And I'm going to be repairing and recrewing all the ships that took part in those battles to get them up to full strength. So we're back on the north coast of the Takeda provinces, where of course we need to retry this naval invasion of the Honma lands, otherwise we're going to be forever living under the threat of them doing the same to us. So now we have two armies, one led by Takeda Yoshinobu and another by Takeda Nobukado. Both of them are fairly elite and powerful armies, probably the best armies in the whole Takeda clan, and they've now made the first bit of progress towards the enemy lands. Now here you see in the end turn sequence, the Date clan offered me military alliance, a very intriguing prospect, so after a fairly long time considering what to do, I accept.
A good ending for our talk then. Diplomacy can and has achieved much.
Knowing that the Date won't attack me in the near future was very useful, because I was worried about the fact that they were capturing provinces right next to mine and perhaps had ambitions on my lands. Now as we move into the next turn, you can see I mastered the art of the sea, which allows me to build new naval units, and I receive a bonus to my trade, which is interesting. This means I'm going to have higher income for the next few turns, so hopefully I'll be able to put that to good use. So here's Yamato, now freshly captured. You can see I also recruited a ninja there from Yamato to do some spying in the area. And here we can see Takeda Shingen's reinforcements who came around from Makawa have finally arrived in Yamato. Now let's head back to the naval invasion situation. I'm trying to move around to the east side of the island because that's where there are docks, and that's the best place to land your troops from the areas around docks. I believe the game may even force you to land in the areas around docks, I can't quite remember. But anyway, you saw there was one Honma ship in the way, but it was quickly eradicated by our huge fleet. Now, as Nobukado's fleet tries to move round into the cove where the harbour is located, we discover another Honma navy. So I'm moving my forces up, including the firebomb Koboya that I just captured from the Honma, to go and do battle with that fleet, and it very sensibly just retreats rather than giving battle. So now the way for us to land our troops on the shore appears to be open, so we can simply move our ships forward, and the troops are automatically positioned on the shore, but they're not allowed to move this turn. It counts as all of their movement points being spent because they had to move in the ships. So this means the Honma are going to have a chance to come and do something about us landing on their shores if they like. Now here's the ninja I mentioned earlier, and I'm now going to scout out the area around Yamato. You can see here at Key, the Amako have a actually quite small garrison defending the province, so I thought I could possibly go and capture that place, but I needed to know what was happening here. But it turns out there's actually a very large Amako garrison in the area that could either come and help Key or strike at Yamato if I was to leave it undefended. So for the moment I can't really move Shingen's forces from where they are, and they'll just have to keep gearing up for the fight. So now I'm ending the turn. We're moving into the summer turn now. So let's see what happens. The Date are moving on my borders. Now if you look at the top right hand corner of the screen, you're going to see the Date lands suddenly expand. They capture like 2 or 3 provinces at once. So they actually now control all of the land that isn't owned either by the Yamanouchi or the Hatakeyama up on that northern end of Japan. So they made a sudden power grab right after that alliance with us. Very interesting. The Ikko interestingly seem to put like loads of armies next to North Shinano. I'm not 100% sure what those Ikko are up to, but of course I can't be distracted by that because I'm under attack. The Honma have led an army out to do battle with Nobukado, and he is of course being backed up by Yoshinobu right behind him. Now this was a fairly advantageous battle for us, and we actually saw a very similar battle in the last Takeda episode, so although I was going to fight it, I decided to auto-resolve it in the end. So let's see what the result is. They're fighting annoyingly behind this giant gold icon, which quite poignantly represents the real reason for the invasion of Honma. They are a very rich island. The battle's over. We took very acceptable casualties, the enemy took heavy casualties, and Nobukado leveled up, so it was a very favourable auto-resolve for us.
A small, fast-moving vessel can attack with exploding projectiles that can set fire to enemy ships.
So we've recruited our first firebomb Koboya, a result of mastering the way of the sea, so hopefully we'll see those in action at some point in the near future. Now let's check out what the Honma have. They still have a very powerful and large army guarding their castle, and then a smaller army consisting mainly of Yari samurai acting as a reserve. So I need to deal with these situations. I would say that we have a slight strength advantage, but it's not definitive at this point. So if I wanted to attack the castle now, I would incur quite heavy losses. But what I can do is what I'm doing here. I move Yoshinobu forwards and get him to drive away the enemy's backup army now that the siege around the castle has begun, because that way the backup army couldn't rely on getting reinforcements and gave us a local force advantage. Now this means that we have a local force advantage on the castle as well, but it wasn't a particularly large force advantage, so what I decided to do was wait them out and see if the reinforcement army came to initiate a sally battle, because that way it'd be a much more favourable terrain situation for me, not having to attack a castle.
To your every word. What I can do for you, I will do for you.
Now at this stage I was looking through the diplomacy and I noticed that Kitapatake, who are between Yamato and the Takeda provinces along the south coast like Makawa and Totoimi, was quite friendly towards me, and I decided to offer them a military alliance because this would guarantee some key flanks to my provinces would be safe from attack. However, I am hesitant just because the Kitapatake might be attacked by, say, the Ikko, and this would make me be forced to make some awkward diplomatic decisions or make some ruinous diplomatic decisions. So that's why I was a little bit worried, but I decided that in the end I would go for it.
Our rivals will tremble when they hear of this agreement, my friend. Excellent!
Peace! It is peace! Send word to the Onobushi that they may return their silks to their blades. The Takeda did not declare war. In fact, the opposite. They have offered alliance without terms. With this we're safe from the Ikko for sure. Our docks supply the new Takeda garrison at Yamato. That is the reason they offer us protection. Those devious men of the saddle have been aiding the Ikko for years now. I would not let the Onobushi off their training just yet. Now, one development that occurred during the last 10 turn sequence was that the Ikko moved forward and started suppressing the Amako forces to the northwest of Yamato, and this means Shingen is pretty much free to move on Ki, and it's in my advantage to do so now because the Ikko might go and capture it if I don't. So I moved forward, I pushed away an Amako army that was in the way, and then began the siege. The siege was a slight advantage in my favour, but not really large enough for me to want to attack, because I didn't want Shingen to actually suffer any particularly heavy losses in this battle, just in case the Yamato were to counter-invade at any moment. So I decided to play it safe, cool off the siege, and go and start attempting to destroy the Amako forces outside the castle first. However, I didn't have enough movement points to actually do it. But this is bad news, because it means the Amako forces can simply garrison the castle. The good news is that the Takeda reinforcements are going to move down and defend Yamato just in case something does appear. Now, in the next end turn sequence, we get some interesting diplomatic news. The Ikko have declared war on the Yamanouchi. Now, I'm not really sure what they were thinking with this, but it's forcing me to make a decision. Do I side with the Ikko? Do I side with the Yamanouchi? Now, there's only one real option, which is to side with the Ikko, because to betray the Ikko at this stage could be devastating, whereas the Yamanouchi are very weak, and it looks like the Ikko are going to destroy them right away with that massive invasion.
Enough brave men have died. It is time to discuss an end to the fighting.
Yes, indeed, it seems the Honma desire peace, and after a long while considering it, I decided to deny them peace. I could have made them a vassal, but I wanted to destroy them for the dishonor they made against me by attacking Echu unprovoked, and because of course access to their ample funds would be more useful than their loyalty and vassalship. So here's the situation with the Yamanouchi. They have two armies, however they're quite far away from the main garrison, so it looks like the Ikko are about to capture their province. So this is bad news. Our long-time ally and vassal is about to be destroyed. Hopefully the same fate will not befall our new ally, the Kita Batake. So Shingen is now in a position to move on Ki Castle yet again. But of course now the defenders inside are even stronger than they were before. So I need to really gear up before I begin my assault. Unfortunately, the area is actually so secure thanks to the Ikko that I'm in a good position to do that. I'm moving all the forces I've recruited recently at Yamato and the reinforcements who moved up from Mikawa to come and support Shingen in the assault on Ki. Now that we have these two armies attacking from two sides, we should have a very large force advantage, and look here, the balance bar is very much in our favour, which means it's very safe for me to just quickly auto-resolve this assault and see what happens. There's a decisive victory, very low casualties, Shingen ranking up to level 5, which is good news, and Ki has been captured. I'm going to peacefully occupy it. So we now have two castles, a very stable base in the Kinai region, a very good position from which to move on the capital should we choose to do so. I'm also choosing to develop Ki with new farms and roads because there's a lot of potential there. It has very fertile soil, and those roads are going to be useful for moving quickly backwards and forwards between Ki and Yamato. Now back in the older Takeda territories, I'm actually preparing defensive positions. I've moved Yamadera off the ships to come and defend Mikawa, and up here in Echi I'm doing a similar strategy using Nobushige's army to come and defend this border. You might have noticed both times I was defending the border with their Ikko lands because I am getting suspicious about those Ikko, and they could of course storm me and destroy me if they wanted, but I'm going to try and put up a fight should they choose to do so. So I'm hiding forces around the borders just in case they betray me. Will they? Well, you'll find out in the next Takeda episode. That's all for this episode. Join us next time when the Oda take on all of Japan. That's next time on the Eternal Law.